The backlash at the Labour leader came just a day after he was told to put the country first by one of his own irate MPs who urged him to support the punishment doled out by Theresa May of the Russia spy poison case. But today in the Commons, Mr. Corbyn asked the Prime Minister how she had responded to requests from the Russian government for a sample of the nerve agent used in the attack so it could run its own tests, to much anger from the opposite side of the House. The Labour leader also pressed the PM on what conversations she had had with Moscow about the incident. He added, while suspending planned high-level contact, does the Prime Minister agree that it is essential to maintain a robust dialogue with Russia? Getty. Jeremy Corbyn has faced a furious backlash over his response to the Russia spy poison case. BBC's Laura Kunsberg wrote of Mr. Corbyn's performance in the Commons today. Very uncomfortable statement from Corbyn, repeats his call for robust dialogue with Russia. Lots of barracking and angry members of the public blasted the Labour leader. Ian L. Stubb wrote on Twitter, Corbyn just tried scoring political points re the Russian nerve gas attack on UK soil. Unbelievable, despicable man. Thank God we didn't have him in politics in 1939, Libertarian rebel added. Corbyn gets it wrong again. Describes Salisbury poisoning as no more than an act of violence. Defense capability. Getty. Theresa May outlined retaliatory measures against Russia over the spy poison case. Mark Casai added, days like this are when leadership really shows, and Corbyn is once again demonstrating how little of it he lacks on the big issues. Today is not the day for political point scoring. A number of Conservative MPs also criticised Jeremy Corbyn for his response to the Prime Minister's Commons address, after former Labour Minister Tony McNulty tweeted that the party leader's statement was utter waffle and a sixth form rant. Damian Green responded saying, correct analysis. Nick Bowles said today at Jeremy Corbyn faced a simple test. Would he condemn the Russian government for launching a chemical weapons attack on the UK, and back the actions of the British government? His failure to do so reveals where his loyalties lie. And Peter Heaton-Jones tweeted, for the second time this week I've sat in the House of Commons and watched with dismay as the leader of an opposition demonstrates, through his complete lack of judgment, that he is utterly unsuited ever to govern our country. Theresa May said that it was highly likely that Moscow was responsible for poisoning Sergei Skripal yesterday. John Woodcock, a Labour MP, blasted the leader of the opposition for his shameless attacks on the Tory party over donations that they had received from Russia. In the House of Commons, Mr. Woodcock turned on the party leader in an extraordinary outburst, warning him the British public would be angered if he didn't stand up to Vladimir Putin. He urged Mr. Corbyn to throw his support behind Mrs. May in the House of Commons, as she announced the expulsion of Russian diplomats after the poisoning of Sergei Skripal, 66, and his 33-year-old daughter Yulia in Salisbury. Mrs. May said, on Monday the government had concluded it is highly likely Russia was responsible for the attack which left the Skripals in a critical condition in hospital. Mr. Woodcock wrote in the Telegraph, if the government's response is sufficiently strong in these areas, Labour should stand behind it. Sky News MP Marc-Francois branded Jeremy Corbyn a CND badge-wearing apologist. The public will forgive people having an occasional off day and striking the wrong tone in Parliament. They will be less forgiving of a party that seeks to govern if it refuses to acknowledge the severity of the situation. We hope everyone in Labour will put the country first today and support necessary action to protect its citizens. He wrote, in times of threat Britain is strongest when its people stand shoulder to shoulder against adversity. Marc-Francois, a Conservative MP for Raleigh and Wickford, said, can I commend the Prime Minister on her decisive and vigorous actions in response to what was, after all, an attack on the United Kingdom. In some ways it had flashes of the Iron Lady about it, but it was also in stark contrast to the attitude of the leader of the opposition, who simply could not bring himself to condemn Russia for this outrageous act. He simply couldn't do it. And is that not because he remains at heart what he has always been, a CND badge-wearing apologist for the Russian state? Getty. Milne is A former communist sympathizer who now works for Mr. Corbyn May outlined retaliatory measures against Russia after Moscow missed her midnight deadline to provide a credible response to allegations of its involvement in the Salisbury spy poisoning. Following Prime Minister's questions, she told MPs that the UK is to expel 23 Russian diplomats in retaliation for the nerve gas attack in Salisbury. Mrs. May told MPs that Russia had responded to her demand for an explanation of events in Salisbury with sarcasm, contempt and defiance. Mrs. May said the response has demonstrated complete disdain for the gravity of these events. She said the diplomats being expelled had been identified as undeclared intelligence officers and had been given a week to leave. Thursday, March 8, 2018. Personnel in hazmat suits secure a tent covering a bench in Salisbury's Maltings shopping centre, and dignitaries, including members of the royal family, will not attend this summer's World Cup. The Prime Minister met intelligence chiefs and senior ministers at the National Security Council in Downing Street on Wednesday morning. She told MPs the National Security Council had agreed immediate actions to dismantle the Russian espionage network in the UK, but a spokesman for Russian President Vladimir Putin insisted that Moscow had no connection with the attack on Mr. Skripal. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov told reporters in Moscow that Russia won't accept absolutely unfounded accusations against it, which are not substantiated by any evidence, and won't accept the language of ultimatum.